put in. Thank you, Miss G. Um, and I forgot, and I had a note of that, Miss G. Note right here in my book. um, but good thing Kim didn't start, right? Um, Miss G put on a recording button. But what I'm saying, so when I was hired, the job offered me a pension opportunity. It's like, well, do you want to contribute to your retirement plan? I'm like, of course I do. And at that age, and luckily, I did the very minimum, right? But I did the minimum in the sense that I at least did enough to have the government match, right? Match that amount. I was talking to a buddy of mine who was a manager in another governmental office, and he had an employee working there 10 years. I'm sorry, 20 years. 20 years that was getting below the minimum and the government was not matching it. Can you imagine how much money that employee lost in that amount of time? Thousands upon thousands by just not doing $50 more so they had the minimum so the government can match. That's being financially illiterate, not to know that. And that's what we that's what we're trying to change, right? The mindset. But as I talk about the snapshot of my life, right? I wanted to, and this constantly expand, like we adding parenting, like how Kamari and our relationship, how to get Kamari financially literate so he won't be in the same situation, right? But what Kim, my wife, is going to talk about is this another component of it is, and she's not going to phrase it as this, but I'm going to phrase it as this: the trauma, right? The trauma of growing up in a financially illiterate background, right? Family household. And I wouldn't think of it as a trauma, but I was talking to a doctor and that's what she termed it as. She said, that's trauma, right? And the trauma is, and this is what I want to talk about is, when I was 13, again, I remember stuff like it was yesterday. When I was 13 and the sheriff officers came knocking on the door and said, you're being evicted. You need to leave the house immediately. And I'm like, whoa, we're being evicted. We already had the lights turned off at the time. I'm like, whoa, what? And they just put me out. My mom wasn't there. I just put me out on the street. And I realized I lived in a really violent neighborhood, right? And so, but I had the hindsight. I don't know what told me to do this, to go and open up my back window. So when the sheriff's officer left, I just went back in the house. It's like that's what I thought to do, right? But right, I thought about this. What if my mom had the conversation with me? Look, I couldn't pay the bill, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not saying my mother didn't have the knowledge to do this. I'm just saying, what if she did? Like, that's what we want to talk about, right? Hey, Kivon, I'm raising you and your son, as you and your brother alone. I didn't pay the rent because I paid your tuition. I was going on private school at the time. That's probably what happened. I was just starting a private school at that time. So we're not going to have lights or we're not going to have a place to stay. But when I say trauma is 20 years ago, as Kim and I were becoming financially literate, we owned a rental property, right? So, but I still had this fear like stacking money because I didn't want to get kicked out. Like I had to have, and we had probably over $50,000 in the bank, and I'm still like, it's not enough, right? It's not enough. Even though at that time we were in a position where we could evict tenants because we own a rental property. We could evict this woman for not paying rent. So the trauma, right? The trauma is what I wanted to, that aspect. So I wanted to broaden our conversation and include parents in that. So maybe we can work on different ways of how we talk to our kids. And so lastly, every now and then, right? I get PhD students that contact me that are doing PhDs and on financial literacy or something. They want to look at our program, and and um, so so this may be one of the topics that someone else may want to take on. How do trauma affect kids or not affect kids? I don't know, but we're doing this anyway, right? And some of the things we do might be on the cutting edge, right? So the Brookings report released their study, and they said that two things can help decrease the wealth gap. One, more African Americans investing in the stock market. We don't invest in the stock market enough, right? We've been teaching that for 5 years, investing in the stock market. And two, investing in real estate. Well, we've been doing real estate. We have a real estate camp that we're offering. We have one person signed up. So that probably won't happen, unfortunately. But we do have it. We are offering it. That is what helped me, those two things, pay off $85,000 in loans. Investing in real estate, student loans, and the stock market. Those two things uh, over 25 years ago helped me do that once I finished my education, those two things. So, any questions for me? I'm moving on. We're moving on. We do have some fun. This is not all serious. Kim demanded that. We have games. We're not just all serious. We have games. Any questions for me? Okay. Now we have Kamari Jr. Washington Chisholm. He's going to introduce his mom. And just want to give a note of thanks for Kim, my wife. She took on this additional challenge. She has been a social worker for over 25 years, right? 30 over 25 years, right? So this is me, right? Over 25 years, right? So I found this. I read an article. I'm always doing research. I read an article and it talked about certified financial therapist. I'm like, what is that? And I looked at it and everything. So I asked my wife, would she become get another certificate after she has about 4 already? Would she get another certificate in her social work field and become this certified financial therapist so we can add this component to our program? I'm not going to lie and say she graciously agreed, but she did agree. Okay, Kamari, can you introduce your mom for us, please?
Yes. Kim Chisholm is the operations manager of Black Wallstreeters and Junior Wallsteeters, Inc. She is a licensed clinical social worker, a certified substance abuse counselor, and a certified financial therapist. She has over 30 years of clinical experience working with adults and adolescents in various treatment settings, including schools, hospitals, detention centers, and courts. She also manages a thriving private practice specializations in mental health, substance abuse, and overall well-being. Kim utilizes a strengths-based perspective when working with people and appreciates the opportunity to be of service.
Thank you so much for that incredible introduction. Thank you, Kivon, for your opening remarks. I would also like to thank Kivon and Kamari for working alongside me and, of course, behind the scenes to ensure a successful event. And of course, this event wouldn't be possible without you guys joining us. So thank you for joining us as well. All right, we can move to the next slide. So we'll take a look at today's agenda. And like Kivon said, we're moving right along. We'll make sure we cover today's objectives, which is understanding how our individual backgrounds directly and indirectly influence our approach to money. And Kivon alluded to that a bit earlier in his opening remarks. We'll develop a plan to transition our families toward a healthier financial future. Hopefully, if there's time at the end, we'll play a Kahoot game, not a lot of questions, so hopefully you can stay tuned for that. We'll follow up with Kivon, looking at next steps, how we can further develop the material that we're learning today. We'll allow some time for some questions and dialogue, and at the end, Kivon and Kamari will engage in stock tracking, just to get a visual of what they've been working on. So I am not a financial planner. I do not provide investment advice, nor do I sell products. However, as a certified financial therapist, I help people think, feel, and relate to money differently, hopefully differently than they have in the past. I can assist with financial goals, offer savings tips, financial plans, and process retirement, which is a huge challenge for a lot of people, a huge decision to make. For example, it's common for a person to assess their readiness to retire. So much to think about, right? There are financial, emotional, social factors to consider, which look vastly different from person to person. So, as a financial therapist, I'm able to process these life examples with people. And that's just one example to give you a snapshot. So let's take a look at the difference between financial literacy and financial wellness. Oftentimes, people confuse the two, or they think of them as one and the same. So when you think about financial literacy, it's knowing the terminology, it's knowing the concepts and having knowledge of how our financial system works. That's financial literacy in a nutshell. Financial wellness, on the other hand, is the ability to manage your financial resources and meet your financial goals, whether they're short-term or long-term goals. It also takes into account an inevitable emergency plan and having an additional plan to become debt-free if you are in debt. And during Kivon's summer camps, he talks about emergency plans and the importance of it, and usually provides some personal examples of how that's worked well in our lives too. So working toward improving your financial wellness, the hope is that it will improve your quality of life, especially when it comes to managing stress and relationships. So oftentimes when couples come into counseling, one of the top 5 categories that are challenging for them as a couple, whether it's marriage or not, is communication and finances. So you can imagine being in a better financial wellness position can definitely help with these 2 areas, managing stress and relationships. So the hope is that once you build a foundation of financial literacy, you'll be well on your way to financial wellness. Allow one to build upon the other. So individual and collective financial goals. So financial matters are an individual, and it can also be a collective path. Individually, we may have short and long-term goals for ourselves and our families. But collectively, we can also have short and long-term goals that are centered around pooling resources, like joining an investment club. So many people have probably heard about investment clubs. Many people probably walk away with myths and not too many facts about what an investment club actually is. But think of the concept being stronger in numbers. And if there's time at the end, hopefully Kivon can provide us with just a snapshot of defining investment clubs, and more specifically, how they've worked for our family for so many years. So my hope today is that this information will not just be applicable and educational for financial matters, although we'll heavily focus on this area, but my hope, big umbrella hope, is that it'll also be useful in many different areas of your life. So recently I was talking to someone about the progress of their New Year's resolutions, because we're about halfway through the year. So when you think on a broader scale, and this is not necessarily individual for you, but when you think of a broader scale, usually when people make New Year's resolutions or New Year's goals, it focuses on losing weight, it focuses on saving money, making a career change, quitting a bad habit, or spending more time with your family. So if any of these areas, top 5, resonate with you, please allow this material to assist you in moving the needle forward in other areas of your life that also requires your attention. So although we're mainly focused on financial matters, transferable information also allows you to use this information for other areas of your life that you have either been in denial about, have not been consistent with, or not prioritized. So please allow it to help you in other areas of your life as well. Many people don't realize that our individual backgrounds can directly and indirectly influence our thoughts and beliefs about money. For some people, just having an open conversation about money creates high levels of anxiety because they realize that they're not financially prepared for the future, or they mismanaged money in the past, or did not, quote unquote, make the best financial decisions. For some people, having an open conversation about money brings about feelings of sadness because as you take a closer look at your current financial situation, you may have limited hope or optimism that you can learn or improve your current financial situation. So for some people, it creates anxiety. For some people, it's sadness. It's not an easy conversation to have. It's not even an easy topic to think about. So if any of these areas are applicable to you on an impactful level, where the anxiety or sadness kind of halts you in place, you may want to consider addressing these areas first, as it may be the key to forward movement and financial growth. And it's okay to admit if either one of these are categories that you need to take a closer look at. Happens to the best of us. Some people make financial decisions or do not make certain financial decisions due to historical and personal factors. Let's take a look at an example of both. So Kiman mentioned this a bit earlier. So let's say someone grew up in a single parent household and it impacted where they lived, how they dressed, access to utilize and benefit from resources. It impacted a number of things. Those are just a few examples. So in turn, this scenario could manifest itself in adulthood through living beyond one's means, especially materialistically. So you go from the concept of not having, being without, to the other end of the spectrum, buying more than you need, spending more than you have. Another example could be one of your parents or your guardians kept their spending or debt secretive because of the shame and guilt associated with their lack of control or impulsiveness. So although as adults, we think that we should, quote unquote, know better, we may inadvertently gravitate in these directions. Overspending in different categories. And it's not something that makes us proud, and it's something that we know that we shouldn't do. But for some people, it's so impulsive and it's such a high that the idea of stopping or cutting back or controlling is hard to wrap their head around. So we'll move to slide 4. So how do we transition and shift the focus? Now that we've had some background knowledge. So some literature states that between 3 and 5 is a great starting point. And I actually had to read this twice, and I'm thinking, like, this is pretty young for someone to wrap their mind around the concept of money and what it means. But apparently, it's at this age where kids begin to develop the ability to make choices and actually reason. They have the ability to learn basic concepts, the value of money and its impact. And if you think about it just a bit, you may have a kid of your own or niece or nephew or someone in your circle who knows a bit more about money, especially if they receive it in a Christmas card or birthday card, and how excited they get and what they're looking forward to spending it on. That's a great example of seeing money at play and them realizing its impact and what it can do and what it can buy them, and that it's overall a good thing. From 8 until 12 years old, conversations about money can be more complex in nature. It's at this age when they begin to understand building versus investing money, different types and uses of money. Between 12 and 15, parents and guardians may want to have their children manage small budgets. You know, it's kind of scary to think about, like, entrusting them with money, but it can be small. They can begin to manage small budgets. You can go back to the other screen, if you will. And that will introduce them to the concept of spending, saving, the impact of money, what a balance is. And they can actually consider supporting charities. It can be charities that the family as a whole support, or it can be charities that are near and dear to your child's heart, something that you haven't given thought to, but allowing them the autonomy to either research or show what they're passionate about can also be a starting point too. So depending on your child, and you know your child far better than us, they may also be ready to be introduced to financial systems such as banks, starting a bank account, figuring out the differences in different banks and what they offer in fees. And junior Wall Streeters incorporate these areas into their curriculum, so you're covered there. We can go to slide 5, if you will. Thank you. So keep in mind that the screen before you is just a guideline, a very loose guideline, but it gives us working knowledge and a great starting point for how to proceed. So individual circumstances such as attention deficit disorder and the like, of course, may account for differences. So when we're teaching our children or other family members, nieces or nephews, about financial literacy or any other topic of interest, let's be mindful of their attention capacity. Sometimes we expect a lot, right? So as adults, especially depending on a topic, we may also be challenged with long attention spans too. So we get it, right? Sometimes it's important for us to kind of make our point, cover some bullets, and revisit it another time. And you can tell usually through body language and eye contact when your family member, your child, or any other family member has kind of mentally checked out. So if it feels like your child can only focus for 5 minutes, that may be entirely age appropriate. So I'll give you a few more moments just to look at the average attention spans for different age groups. So think about your son or daughter or your family member that you're interested in teaching more about this concept. Look at the allotted time for your child. And then the material that we'll share from this point forward, allow it to loosely fit within that time boundary. Doesn't have to be perfect, but just try your best to be mindful of this area. We can move to slide 6. So before we cover some videos, I just want to provide you with a backdrop. So each child processes information very differently, different amounts, and of course, at different rates. Some children may need additional time to process and digest, depending on their intellectual and emotional capacities. So allow the assessment of your child's strengths to be your first step in this area. Before you proceed with what I want to introduce them to, a look at their attention span, I want you to take a look at their strengths. Math and numbers in general may not be your child's strengths. So keep that in mind. I may have to deliver this information differently. Math and numbers, on the other hand, may be a strength of your child. So maybe you can provide a bit more information, a bit more complex in nature, and allow yourself to see how they digest that information before you proceed with the next category. First step, assess where they are. And you'll find a lot of progress when you do it in that order. And hopefully it will be less stressful too. I want to ask that you be patient with yourself during these conversations. Talking about finances, thinking about finances, especially personal finances, the ones that you personally find yourself in current day, is not easy. It's a degree of vulnerability that takes place, exposure that may not feel comfortable, even if it's your son or daughter, someone that's in your family, it's not comfortable. When I think it, I feel a certain way. When I say it out loud, I feel a different way. When I see the looks on their face as I'm communicating this information, it settles into my heart and spirit very differently. Not easy, but I'm just asking, be patient with yourself, especially during the initial conversations. Utilize user-friendly and age-appropriate language, and not language that supports your knowledge base. So depending on the age range of your child, consider language such as the word buy instead of purchase. Think of phrases like what's left over instead of balance. See how they digest the terminology that you use before you use advanced concepts, and allow yourself to build from that. Brainstorm a starting point. Think to yourself, what would be helpful for my child as a starting point? Is it basic financial terms and definitions? Or is it something more extensive, like, let me start with financial responsibility, because we've covered that in our household already. Maybe you want to start with figuring out how much money you have coming in. You guys taking a look at that together. Like, this is my income. Let's take a look at how much money I have going out. These are my expenses. And maybe by comparing the two, you two can loosely work together to create a budget to help protect yourself against going into debt. It's interesting because you never know what ideas may come to their mind once they see it on paper. Consider incorporating symbolic tools such as Monopoly or spend, save, and donate envelopes that junior Wallsteeters use with their students, which are also available on their website. These envelopes, as well as games involving dollars and cents, have been helpful for our son growing up. I'm not sure if he still uses his spend, save and give envelopes, but we definitely make sure that we try to keep those separately. You also may want them to manage banking portions of games, so just so they can be hands-on. I'm asking that you reinforce these conversations in different ways, not allow it to be a one and done conversation, but allow these reinforced conversations to be measured and calculated. Doesn't always have to be 20 minutes, doesn't always have to be 30 minutes. But I'm asking that you trust your gut in this area, lies on teachable moments, and allow the experience to be fluid and open-ended. Allow them to come back at any point to ask questions. I was thinking about this conversation and I have a question, or challenge them based on our conversations. I want you to come up with 2 or 3 questions and then we'll talk about it again. So if you're at a grocery store and you're using cash, I'm not sure if many people do still these days, but if you're at a grocery store and you're using cash, allow them to stand there and count the change. I know the person behind you may tend to get a bit annoyed, but allow them to be in that moment and understand what it's like. So when they get older and develop that sense of independence, they'd feel more empowered that they can do it because they have done it. Solicit their feedback. Ask them, do they have any questions? Ask them to share with you what you taught them. Repeat it back to me, what they remember. This is an incredible, powerful learning tool. And like I said earlier, transferable in many areas of life. Any conversations that you have with them, tell me what I just shared with you. Let's have a conversation on what you heard me say. Because sometimes what you said and what they walk away with can be very different. And that's in a separate category, right? Of the power of communication and the subtle nuances of conversation. So we have a couple of brief videos to show, which will provide just a visual reminder of what we just talked about. And we're ready whenever you are.
Every time I needed a new phone, I had to switch carriers.
I told him.
I think you just have to share your screen.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for after the commercial ends.
Okay, thank you.
And everyone can get that iPhone 15 on them. Now that I got a huge storage and battery upgrade, I'm officially done switching. New and existing customers get iPhone 15 on us when they trade in any iPhone. Verizon.
All right, so listen up here. This morning in our series On the Money, we are talking kids and money. Some parents, a lot of parents, actually probably a little uncomfortable talking to the kids about the subject. And not all states require personal finance classes for high school students, but it is a very important conversation to have. So to help us have that conversation, we brought in the best CNBC personal finance expert. Sharon Epperson has a great plan for teaching all of our kids of all ages. Sharon, is it true we can start having these conversations with our kids as early as the age of 5?
You can do it earlier. I was the mom in the grocery store pointing out the different canned goods to my son, saying, "This is cheaper than this one. So mom is going to put this in the with my coupon." So you can start when they're very, very young, and it's important to start when they're young because you want to make sure to normalize this conversation, make it part of the everyday conversation. And how you can do it is to just pick some money words. What words are very important to know? You got to know how to use money. You got to know how to save money, how to make money. So earn, spend, save. Those are words that you can start talking to them about as you're discussing some basic concepts that your children need to learn. And the key part, though, is making it part of the everyday conversation. When I'm stressed about something that I have to buy, I often will tell them, this refrigerator that you go into all the time, this costs as much as all the shoes that you have in the house, or something to make it very tangible.
I think I was around 8 years old. I remember we were going to the bank and I wanted something. I'm like, Mom, please, please. And she's like, no, there's no money. And I'm like, look at all those checks. Like I just remember seeing all the papers, I'm like, just write on it and turn it, go to the bank into money, and turn it into money.
Exactly. Now they teach you that you can do that with Apple Pay.
Right, exactly. All right, let's move to the next age group, preteens and teenagers. You believe this is a good age to start understanding budgeting.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand budgeting, but also that it takes income to budget, right?
There you go.
So you have to discuss with them ways that they can earn. Maybe you're going to give them an allowance for certain things that they're doing, pay them for chores that they may do around the house. I think that's very important to make sure they understand that they're working for something and that's how they're being reciprocated. But when I talk about budgeting, maybe you have some favorite items that you know your child loves. You go to the grocery store together, give them a budget to buy those things. And these are things you love, but this is all the money that you have.
Good idea.
Once that's gone, you can't get anything else.
Right.
So don't say,
Good.
"Can you put this in the cart?" The other thing that I loved doing with my kids when they were that age was picking a charity with them.
Great.
Where do they go? What charities are in your community that you want to support? And it doesn't always have to be with money. It can be with them learning how to donate clothes or
good.
spending time with people. So that's something really important
love
to
that.
foster that early.
In high school, I worked, I saved money, but I wish I learned how to invest money. Why is that important? at high
Because
school
we love brands. Kids love brands, adults love brands, but we need to understand we want to buy the company that makes those brands. And so teaching them to love having a stake in the game with that company is so important. You can set up investment accounts. There are apps that can help you. You can do it online. Setting up an account and teaching them that giving that hands-on experience is important, but also understanding that you have to save and you have to save for a rainy day and encouraging them to save some of their own money, whether it's gifts that they get for a birthday or for a holiday. Maybe you match that. Like you get to 401k match. People love when their employers do that. Maybe you match it for them to kind of also help them save.
It's a great
Yeah,
idea.
we're just finishing up next freshman year of college, and one of the bumps has been we probably didn't prep them or ourselves for our kids going off on their own and budgeting that
Right
money.
there with you. I'm right there with you. And it's such a difficult conversation to have. And the way that they spend, because they're just used to doing it, sometimes if they don't have a budget, they just keep spending. So creating that budget is very important early on. It's also important because if they have a part-time job, to understand this might be the first time that they actually get a paycheck. How do taxes work?
Right.
I thought I had $40 for this out. No, this day's work is a lot less than that after taxes. So they have to understand that. And if they do have a credit card, you may want to open it with them so you can kind of see how they're monitoring what they're doing, making sure that you're impressing upon them how important it is to pay everything off every cycle. Managing debt is so critical. And that's where a lot of adults get tripped up. You know, kids.
Speaking of adults, really quickly here, Sharon, what about those folks, those parents who've had that adult child move back into the house? They may be 25, maybe even 30 years old. What should you be teaching?
Can you turn the volume up, please?
Till we talk.
Well, I mean, these are tough times for a lot of folks.
Sure.
And that's the reason why they're moving back, but you still need to set boundaries. It may involve charging them rent. Maybe they can't afford the rent. Maybe it's some major expense in the house that they have to pay for. There are parents that are paying for their 35-year-old's phone bills still. So maybe that's one thing that they can pay for their phone themselves.
Great tip, Sharon.
Sure.
Great tip,
Thank
Sharon.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. By the way, you can read more on this particular topic from Sharon on our website, today.com. And you can also check out Sharon's Money 101 newsletter as well. There's and that QR code.
I love that.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at
Kim, you ready?
So-
Mhm.
So that initial video from the Today Show, it just like really resonated. Oh, my screen was off. It just really resonated with me and covered like so many things beyond what we have time to cover today. So I wanted to utilize that video just to reinforce material and to also introduce you to some material that we didn't cover today, like your kids in different age ranges and things that we probably haven't thought about or either prepared for. This next video that we're about to show may be about 5 minutes in length, not too long, so it'll be able to keep your attention. We'll also reinforce additional material. And then, like I said at the end, and I know we're getting close to our 2 o'clock mark, we'll save some room for some interactive Kahoots to see what you learned and also engage in some dialogue.
It's been requested that we please
Do you know
increase
the
the
US
volume on the
nasty little
videos.
secret?
Okay, I had it up high. I'll just go a little further. It's not a problem. And I also put the link to the videos in the chat. Thank you, Michelle.
It turns out if you live in Virginia, they have to give you solar panels for absolutely no net cost. All you have to do is ask. Solar companies in the US are trying everything to keep this away from the public, but it's slowly leaking out. And it's all because of the Inflation Reduction Act our government announced just 1 month ago. As a part of America's efforts to fight climate change, our government practically started
You can
handing
press the
out
skip ad button.
solar panels and power walls at no net cost to anyone who qualifies for this program. It's crazy. So if you are currently talking to any solar companies in the US,
You believe about money that might not be true. Our beliefs about money make as big of an impact on our prosperity as what we actually do with it. What we think and what we say about money has a huge effect on what shows up in our lives. And many of these thoughts and beliefs are rooted in what we see, hear, and experience as children. What's your earliest money memory? Mine is 3-year-old me asking my mom, "Mommy, where's Daddy going?" And she'd say, "Daddy's going to work." "Why is Daddy going to work?" She'd say, "To make money." "Why does Daddy make money?" And she'd say, "To buy Ellen toys." She thought it was cute. I like getting toys. We'd say this over and over again. My dad went to work. My mom stayed home. She was well educated and sometimes had jobs, but her activities really didn't have anything to do with our family finances. A powerful money message for me, whether I was aware of it or not, and whether they intended it or not. Fast forward to when I'm in my 20s. I have an MBA, a CPA, I'm a certified financial planner, and I had my own business. Became fascinated with understanding people's money personalities. And I realized that I was carrying around the belief that making money was my husband's job, just like it was Daddy's, and that I wasn't even supposed to do it. I mean, this made absolutely no sense. We begin to imprint our children's prosperity programs from the day they're born. How do we usually teach kids about money? Maybe through allowance or helping them save. Maybe you've even discussed investing. And chances are you learned money lessons this way yourself. Most of us try to teach our kids to be smart with money. We think we're doing the right things, focusing on facts and figures and the tactics of being good with money. These financial literacy lessons are necessary. They're great. And here's what's missing. If these concepts are all that we focus on, we're missing the opportunity to truly cultivate those skills to help our kids grow up to be prosperous adults. They also need to have a healthy relationship with money. What money messages are your kids receiving that may be unintentional? Kids hear how we talk about money. They see how buying decisions are made. They notice how we react to financial situations. They're always watching, absorbing our stress and our attitudes, even if we don't talk about them. For instance, if growing up, you got the idea that rich people were selfish and dishonest, it'd be really hard to build wealth as an adult if you feel like you're a nice, honest person. Money is a sore subject in your house, constantly fought over. What are your kids taking away from that? That money's something to fight about? That money's power? That I'm not going to talk about money when I grow up because I don't want to have fights like that in my house? Well, we can't control what they take in. We do know their prosperity programs are forming. Knowing what a huge impact beliefs have on our personal prosperity, wouldn't it make sense to nurture supportive beliefs in our children?
we intentionally foster a healthy prosperity program? Well, here's one thing. Picturing prosperity is something kids excel in. So the next time you're inclined to tell your children to stop daydreaming, ask them to picture exactly what they want instead. What if at the same time we're doling out allowances, we ask questions like, what would you like your life to look like in the future? And how do you see making this happen? It's well established that mental rehearsal is a powerful tool. Certainly elite athletes know this. And if you've ever pictured yourself having the perfect golf swing or tennis shot, or even giving a powerful presentation, you know that this works. Asking your kids questions to help them imagine all the details of their future vision. Ask them how they'll feel when their vision is real. This can be really exciting. Have your kids draw pictures of their goals and dreams. Have them create collages of what they desire. Basically, creating vision boards. This is where you take images from magazines that represent your goals and dreams and put them on poster board for inspiration. Have you ever considered using this as the basis of a visual financial plan? To do this, organize the images based on time frame and amount of money it'll take to reach your goals. What if instead of family game night, we had picture your prosperity night? Encouraging your kids to picture prosperity creates excitement and just may inspire them to take the actions they need to turn their dreams into reality. Here's something I've learned from experience that maybe.
Thank you, just for your attention to the content so far and your patience with those 2 videos. My hope is that they reinforced a lot of, again, what we covered and some of the material that we didn't get an opportunity to cover. So I recognize that this was a great amount of information in just a short amount of time. So again, thank you for your attention to this topic. I want to remind you to please be patient with yourself in the process. It's definitely a journey, and I want to thank you for allowing Junior Wallsteeters to be a part of your journey. So now that we have this additional information, hopefully it leads to greater insight, which will allow us more choices, which will ultimately lead us to some changes, right? Our goal is to hopefully utilize what we learned and put it into something behavioral. So now what? What's next? How do we take the information that we learned, the information that we're processing, even as I speak, into a behavioral manifestation? How do we get it from paper into something that we can feel proud about, something that brings us closer to our objectives, whether they're short-term or long-term? So I want you to think about the role of good intentions. A bit ago, we talked about people's top 5 New Year's resolutions or New Year's goals. And usually we go into it with great intentions. We know it's a great idea not to eat fast food every day. We know it's a good idea to exercise and have movement and not sit too long. From an intellectual role, we know that these are all great ideas, and we go into these goals with great intentions. We may not always have a realistic or smart goal plan, but we go into it with good intentions. My hope today is that we can take what we learned and transition it into something behavioral. You can allow the change to happen from being a person that used to have good intentions, that used to have inconsistency in areas of their life, to a person that's willing to commit, a person that's willing to be disciplined. So every day in life, when you think about your goals, you're not always going to be motivated. You're not always going to feel motivated. And that's where the role of discipline comes in. It kicks in when motivation lacks. So certain things take away your energy, and we all know this, but it's helpful sometimes to have reminders. Certain people, places, and things take away your energy, sometimes without us even knowing it. certain things actually fuel our energy, and some of us are not quite in touch with those areas of our lives. And I want to challenge you to do just that. Think about those things that take away your energy, things that fuel your energy, people that have like-minded goals, people that are about forward movement and progress that you are. Consider pooling resources with people like that, having conversations with people like that. You'd be surprised at how things change in your life. Again, I want to ask you to just be patient with yourself and be patient with the process of change, because nothing actually changes, right? Unless something changes. Thank you again, and we'll transition to the next portion of our agenda.
Thank you very much, Ms. Chisholm. That was absolutely outstanding. I had no idea you were gonna. I didn't see your slides beforehand, so thank you very much. So awesome. Yeah, Ms. G said awesome. So Kamari is gonna set up. This is what we do in our camp too. Ms. G is really good. Actually, Ms. G introduced this to us. We like to play games with the campers, so we'll be doing this for the camp for the parents that signed us up for the program. Kamari we just want to make sure that the information is sticking, right? That's what we do with our kids. So we have a little fun. And then I'm just going to end with a few comments. But if you have to go, a couple things if you could put on the chat. We're thinking of starting another group, a group for parents. If parents are interested in having like a group where they get together with other parents and talk about stuff like this. These times are really challenging, right? With us, one example I'll give is like with Kamari, with the technology, right? It was about a month ago. I noticed that Kamari has his own charge card, so I'm trying to teach him discipline and financial literacy, right? For managing money. So I noticed that he had a charge for DoorDash for half a dozen of donuts for $6, for $26. I'm like, who pays $26 for half a dozen of donuts? Our kids today, when they use DoorDash. I'm like, boy, you could have rode your bike to Dunkin' Donuts. All right, well, you pay $26 for half a dozen of donuts. Here's the charge. We don't believe on carrying charge card balances in our household. So there you have it. You owe me $26 at the end of the month. He had to learn the hard way that money don't grow on trees. And just because DoorDash is there and available, that doesn't mean you can quietly take advantage of it. Guess what? You don't order DoorDash no more. Dunkin' Donuts, at least, that costs $26. You ready, Kamari?
Can you see my screen?
I can. We have to invite people to share. I can. Yes, you shared it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can see your screen, Kamar. Can you copy the link and put the pin in the chat?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so parents and students, I know students are familiar with Kahoot, but parents may not be. So we made it a little easier for you by adding the link in the chat. If you haven't set up an account before, it might ask you a few questions, or you can use your phones to take a picture of that QR code, and it'll also allow you to join by putting in that game pin number. That game pin number will allow you to join the game to be able to answer the questions and have a little fun. Don't be shy. Go ahead. take a picture or click on the link in the chat and let's have a little fun. Do we have any more people that we're waiting on? We got 4 in. We would like to at least get 6 of you guys in here. Anybody trying to create an account? Did it ask you to create an account? All right.
Yes.
Okay. So we do have people who wanna play the game, and you guys are trying to get in. Awesome. Okay, we do have someone still trying. Miss Cole.
Thank you for joining us, Miss Glover.
Miss Cole, did you do the join the www.kahoot.it? And then just try putting in the game pin. That should allow you the quickest way to get in where you don't have to create a whole account. It should just say, what's the game pin? Or again, try scanning the QR code with your phone. And then that also will allow you just to put in the game pin to begin. Do I have anybody else still trying to get in the game? We have anybody else? All right, they got in. Woo! All right. Any more? Going once? Going twice? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Going 3 times. Do we have any more players trying to get in? All right, Kamari.
You want me to start it?
Looks like we can start.
So the first question is, certified financial therapists help people think, feel, and relate to money differently. True or false?
So you can type in the chat if you were unable to log in and get the app to work and you want to participate. Go ahead and type your answer in the chat.
Answer is true. Next question, true or false? Many people make New Year's resolutions focused on saving money. True.
Okay, Eden, quick on the draw. I see that you quick on the draw, Eden.
What's the first step transitioning your child towards healthier thoughts, feelings, and an overall relationship with money? Assessing your child's strengths. Literature states that between 3 and 5-year-old is a great starting point to begin teaching children about money. Why? making choices and reasoning. Final question, true or false? Living above your means in adulthood could be a direct result of your upbringing.
I saw you, Team Cole, taking first place.
True.
All right, clap it up for Amanda. Third place. Second place, Mr. Cedric J. And first place, is it going to Eden or Team Cole? Team Cole came through with first place. Clap it up for our winners, and thank you guys for participating.
Okay, so just some final remarks, and we can really transition here. So when we talk about our experiences, this is a perfect example because generally, sometimes, I won't say generally, we play this game in one of our components, either it's in the summer camp or our alumni program. So we have a Junior Wall Street alumni program that we offer, which is after the kids complete summer camp in July, they're invited to come back from September to April, May. Ms. G runs a 1.5-hour session free of charge. And we invite the kids to come back to continue the learning. And when the kids do play this game, we sometimes offer them stock purchasing gift cards. And this is a good opportunity for me to just reflect upon that because many times the kids don't even cash the gift cards. They hold on to the gift cards. We have one of our top students who's on his way to college, still have a gift card in his possession. And you can't imagine how much money he has lost by not you cashing in that gift card. And it would have only been $25. He would have easily, if he would have invested in it, purchased a stock with it last year, he probably would have made $200 based on the way the market is. Free. And he was just so like afraid, like he was gonna miss something, but it was free money. And that the same thing happened with cryptocurrency. One of our teachers gave the kids cryptocurrency, and not all the kids participated. And in particular, one of our best students who come to every Junior Wall Street meetings, I'll say, participates. Her parents would not allow her to accept cryptocurrency. And it's like, it's free. We can't control the judgment. I wish they would have came here. Just like, I was just really concerned, like it's free, it's not going to hurt. But we as a culture, one, African Americans in the society, that's where they're going, right? Either we catch up or we're going to be behind. And more often, we're behind. But they didn't want to accept their child involved with cryptocurrency, right? And the same kid, not the same kid, this first kid I mentioned too, was on his way to college. He's really bright. He does not have a bank account. Does not have a bank account. Now, some of that I realized 3 years ago can be attributed to trauma, right? Because some of us don't trust the system, so to say, right? And some of our kids' parents teach them to keep their money where? Mattresses. I didn't hear you. I could read your, did I read your lips, Mr. Jenkins? I thought I did. Mattresses. Keep the money in mattresses, right? In cans hidden around the house, different places. Not understanding that banks insure your money up to $250,000. So we teach the kids this, right? So, but some of it is trauma, right? And so, and at first I was just like, I don't get that, right? When I say trauma, it's like, because some of us, there's a high percentage of us in the underserved community are either unbanked or underbanked. We don't have bank accounts, unbanked or underbanked. We don't lose our bank accounts the best way possible, right? So what I did is, when I say trauma is because we don't trust the banks. I realize that a part of our curriculum now is showing a clip of the Freedom's Bank disaster from like early 1900s. So many of us are still traumatized. That's been passed down. That the whole thing that happened in the early 1900s when Freedom Banks collapsed and many African Americans lost their life savings, that has been passed down to generations. Do not trust the federal government. Do not trust banks. But the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation was not in place then. So it's practically impossible for you to lose your money in most banks if it is insured. Up to $250,000. And if you have more than $250,000, you just put it in more than one bank. That's, you spread it out to make sure that whatever happens. But this is not only with African Americans, because when this happened about 15 years ago, there was a special on 60 Minutes about the whole interest bank, the mortgage fiasco when banks were closing up. This was white people too. White people was going to bank at the middle of the night carrying big bags with them to take, because they were afraid that they would lose their money. So they were afraid. So they had bags so they could put their money in. At least they had bags so they could put their money in, so they wouldn't lose it. So this is what we're also trying to address with parents, that is passing down some of this information on to their kids. So then we have their kids like, oh, mom, dad, that's not exactly true anymore. Our money is insured, so we don't have to worry about it. Now the thing is, though, right, Mr. Jenkins, the question is, and this happened to me, both the incidents. What if you have a fire? And what if someone breaks into your home? There goes that money. There goes that money. So we want to try to just address this whole topic that we're talking about. So the last thing we're going to do, we're going to send you out a survey. And hopefully people get to you just comment on how you thought the workshop was, if it was helpful, if you needed any additional, if we could have went on or it covered enough, or so forth. We like our survey so we can improve upon ourselves. We are a nonprofit. If you're in a position to make a donation, please go to our website and kindly make a donation. Please spread the word about our program. We still have camp slots available. But Kamari and I want to just take a brief moment to just give you our experience, right? And one of the things that Kamari doing, I felt like him, that video was, that information was talking to me. Too bad we're not going to have another child, though. No more children in our household. But I do have nieces and nephews. I do have nieces and nephews, and maybe Kamari's grandkids. I feel like you were directly talking to me about being patient. I tell you, there's two things, funny things. Get some humor here. Hopefully it'll be funny. Kamari, 17. When he was 10, we were getting our taxes filed, and I was trying to decide how I want to pay the accountant, and he took credit cards. So I love my credit card points. So I whipped out the credit card. Bam! Was going to pay some ridiculous amount for his services. You're welcome, Miss Cole. I whipped out my credit card. Kamari comes over and whispers in my ear, Dad, I thought you weren't supposed to be using credit card to make purchases. I was like, boy, you better get out going folks' business. But he was learning. I didn't even start. He was learning. I'm like, what? Like, and that's what we say, right? Grown folks' business. There ain't no grown folks' business no more. No grown folks. He's 17, so that's what I was thinking when he was 10. But he was learning. Dad, I thought we were not supposed to use credit card. Here he is using the credit card like he ain't got no sense now. And another funny thing, this is about 3 years ago. Kamari's really good at math, right? I had got a bonus. I got a bonus from work. I went and I got my evaluation and I got a bonus. So I sat down. I was like, yeah, Kamari, I was showing him a spreadsheet. I was like, I got a bonus. We got a bonus coming. And every time I generally get a bonus, I normally give him a portion, if he does well in school. So I'm showing him the paperwork, and he's looking. I can look, and I turn and look at him, His lips are moving. He's actually doing the math to calculate what percentage of the money he's gonna get. Hey, good Lord, come on, I didn't get the money yet. You counting your percentage. I did not even get the money yet. And he's counting what he's gonna get. I'm like, all right, I'll see how you roll. Let me keep my information over here from now on. So Kamari, we do what we do. I've had Kamari doing this since he was 11, since he started investing. Tracking. So we have a stack tracker book that we offer. It wasn't this glamorous now, but and Kamari and I, how him and I engage in investing, one of the ways we do it is we track stocks together. And I'll let Kamari share what he's learned from tracking his stocks. Then I'll share one story about this, and then we're done unless people have questions. Kim mentioned investment clubs. Unless folks are interested, I won't talk about it. Somebody put in chat, yeah, they want to hear a little bit more. I'll give it a spiel. But investment clubs, our investment clubs have done wonders for us. When I say wonders, that's how we're paying for his private school education. And thank God this is the last year for that. Now we can move on to our retirement, boosting our retirement with the rest, as far as his elementary, not high school education. Kamari, will you share with the group? You've been tracking stocks for years. What are some of the things that you've learned from tracking your stocks at least 3 times a week? And he has his own custodial account, by the way, his own account that he uses to invest his own money. Yes, Kamari.
Yeah, so I've learned a lot of things over the last couple of years. I mean, I do my best to stay consistent with, tracking my stocks, but not always. I can track them 3 times. Sometimes I'll forget, but I do my best to. One of the things I have learned is about a company buyback. And a company buyback, like when you're tracking your stocks, you learn how it affects it. And normally a company buyback increases share prices based on supply and demand. So when you're tracking your stocks and you realize it goes up a certain increases a certain amount, and then you look it up, and then you can learn what a company buyback is and how that affects the stock price. Another thing I've learned from tracking my stocks is quarterly results that companies release every quarter. And generally, if they outperform analyst expectations, that stock price will go up. And if they don't reach analyst expectations, the stock price will go down. So that's definitely something to look towards. If a company is releasing their quarter results and they're doing well, then you might want to buy more because they're probably going to go up around the time that the analysts release their quarter results. And the third thing is about dividends. Dividends, is like when a company, they give back to the owner a certain amount of money, every so often. But if a stock goes X dividend, then their price, if they give out dividends, their price per share will usually drop by the amount that the dividend is being paid. So if they're going to give out dividends, then you should probably, to expect a drop. And the last thing that I've learned from tracking my stocks over a couple of years is it's definitely more fun to track stocks that I'm interested in. I could track a bunch of like computer or tech stocks like that, but it's just I'm not really a computer guy, so it doesn't really interest me as much as tracking, sports stocks or other stocks that I might be more interested in. And when that stock goes, increases or decreases, it makes it more enjoyable for me to look up and research that specific stock and, understand more why it, went up or went down.
Yeah. So thank you, Kamari. So I appreciate that he learns on his own most of the time. But so I added as he was tracking, as he got older, I started adding a requirement. And as parents that are in our program, this is one of the things your kids will be required to do is when the stock goes up more than $3 to $4, you have to look into the news section and figure out why. And that's really how you learn, right? And like Kamari came to me 2 years ago and he wanted to buy a stock. He said he had been researching. I didn't believe him, I'll be honest. I was like, he didn't do research. He wanted to buy it. I said, okay, all right, it's your money. So he bought this stock. It was in an oil company. And I was like, oh, wow, Kamari. No lie, folks. In 2 days, the stock went up $200, and he only spent like $30. But see, what he didn't do was a great buy. Like now, this is how I do it. I just kind of watch him. I'm looking at his portfolio and I'm watching to see if he's checking. He didn't check it. So he didn't get a chance to benefit off the $200. I said, okay, come on. I said, you checked your stock yesterday? He said, no. I said, well, it was up $200. Oh man, it was. Yeah, bro, you got to check your stock every 3 days. That's what the part of the game is, right? I don't expect him to do what I do. I have this little gadget here. I don't know if you guys can see it, so it's like a screen, but I'm on my phone because I'm managing for our club. I'm constantly. So like you said, I have to tell him, remind him, hey, you got to look at your stocks. This is your money, and and sometimes he comes to me. He comes to me and he'll say, hey, Dad, did you know, like he actually did this last week. He said, hey, did you know that NVIDIA's stock was splitting? I was like, whoa, I didn't know that. But I appreciated you telling me that you're following it. Because I bought some of NVIDIA once it split last week. So hopefully we'll be able to reap some of those rewards by a stock going from $1,200 splitting 10 ways to going to $125. So you never know. But just as the video said, when Kamari first started investing, he didn't tell you the story, but he started investing in things that he used. And our goal is to encourage our students to be investors more than consumers. Investors more than consumers. So investing in products that he or we use is what we try to encourage him to do. So that is it. Please look out for our survey. Unless you have any other additional questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. And I thank you again for joining us. And this is for our current parents that will be joining. The kids will be starting next week, and hopefully you'll spread the word and let people know about our future sessions that we do have. But are there any questions?
Hi. I don't know if you can hear me. My name is Renee Jenkins, and I am a member of First Baptist Church, and Sister Brenda Timley. I know, right?
That's my sis.
She passed around this mail message about you guys. I had seen you though earlier, probably a couple of years ago, so I knew a little bit about you. So when she passed this around, I was like, okay, let me call Brenda and find out what this is all about, right? Because last night I was told, oh, you need to attend this Zoom call. And I was like, really? So I first of all, let me say that I am so glad that I did. I enjoyed everything that you had to say. I am a lifelong investor, and I try to encourage and talk about investing to everybody I know, to the point where I know my friends are sick of listening to me. However, as we get older, now they've come back to me and said, you know what, Renee, I should have listened to you. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to be upset. I'm going to say what we're going to do from now on going forward. So I appreciate like minds and kindred spirits in the march to getting our people to invest. And we are at our church trying to start up a junior finance group as we speak. So a lot of what you said has really resonated with me as to what we need to think about before we move forward. So I appreciate all that you've had to say, and I'm sure I will be reaching out to you in the future. And thank you so much for all of you who participated.
Thank you so much, Renee, for sharing that. Renee, we have that in common. You're not going to believe this. One of my oldest friends told me this 2 years ago. Renee, I've known him close to 40 years.
Uh-huh.
He told me that he thought the stock market was a scam.
Oh.
And so I'm like, Renee, so you've known me for over 40 years, and you think I'd be invested in a scam?
Wow. I know.
Renee, I can find some new friends.
Yeah.
And he's retired now. So I'm like, bro, where do you think your retirement is coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Is it where do you think all of that money for 20 something years you invested in, is that coming from a scam?
Right.
You know, so I feel you on that. I don't know. I feel you on that. It's like, so that's why, you know, we in you know, when we started this business, we started off as an investment club. Black Wall Streeter
Mm-hmm.
started off as an investment club service, helping people start investment clubs. But since we didn't get enough people interested, we kind of shifted to working with the kids.
Right. Okay. Yeah. We're having that same result. We've been putting on like monthly financial seminars, and the attendance is so lacking. And I'm looking at some of the people in the church, and I was like, I know all of you can benefit from this. And we're just trying to figure out ways like, how do we get them involved? How do we get their attention? It's just maddening. I mean, to the point where I'm like, people, you don't understand this information that you are getting for free because we have like a partner that works with us. It'll cost you $3,000 if you were to go to an advisor for the same information, but you're not here. So it's a little frustrating, but we'll keep trying.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm so happy you came. Brenda is my lifelong friend. I've known Brenda for years. And I actually
Yes,
just
she
sent
told
her
me that. Like I said, I reached out to her like 10 o'clock last night. I was like, Brenda. And she and I are co-officers of our women's group. So she and I have been thick as thieves for like the last 5-6 years.
that's awesome. And Brenda said, she texted me this morning. She said she couldn't make it, but some people from the church will be there. I was like,
Right,
whoa, Linda.
yeah.
Oh, I said, all right. I said, okay, Brenda. When she said somebody gonna do something, Brenda is on it.
Yes. So thank you all.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Hello. Yeah, this is Keo Karen. I'm calling from Houston, Texas. I heard about you guys on, it was Joe Madison or Karen Hunter, because I'm an avid Sirius XM listener. I am also a lifetime investor. And Renee, I understand what you're saying. At my church, I'm trying to start a financial literacy class. I'm finding out that a lot of people have shame because they don't know.
Yes,
and it's just embarrassing. So I'm trying to figure out a different wording instead of finance. And I'm still working on that, because when you talk about finance, a lot of shame comes over a lot of people because they don't know.
Don't know.
I'd like to tell you that this was a very informative session. I'm an educator by trade, and I would tell you, you guys did an excellent job. I'm interested in finding out if there are any more workshops like this. I'm also interested in trying to develop something like this down in the Houston area. And I did email Mrs. G for some information, you know. I would say this is great for youth, and I think it's fantastic, but I'm dealing with trying to help my mother of 93 years old, trying to find a way of her budgeting and making her live within her means. And a lot of stuff that you shared with us can be used for my elderly mother.
Wow.
And so thank you very much.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, for joining us, Karen. Yeah, we can definitely, Michelle sent me the email and said contact you. Okay, Renee, thank you for joining us.
No problem. And I will be reaching out. So
okay, I look forward to speaking with you.
Okay.
Yeah, Karen. Yeah. You sent your information. Ms. G did send it to me, so I definitely will be in contact. To answer your question about the workshop, so I kind of get these workshops. I just think of these sometimes as like, just what can be more helpful to our community. This is not our first. We've done some on like investment club. So, but now that we have your information, you'll definitely get that about our upcoming workshops. And we can talk further about definitely. I had a really good family from Houston. I think they moved. She had a 10-year-old, 12-year-old son in our program, so we definitely would like to get more families from everywhere. So if we can build upon that and get some of your church members to be a part of our program, we welcome that as well. So I definitely will follow up with you so we can have a further conversation. I can try to answer your questions better. Does anyone else have any other questions?
Yes, this is Clarence. This has been great. Been great. A lot of stuff that you talked about was stuff that I was actually considering this week. Like I had a young man, he asked me a question, is how could he become rich? And what he can do to make some money. So I was talking to him about he's 18 years old and he also works with me. So I told him a good business for him would be grass cutting. He's good with social media. I told him he can start an online account. One of the things that I am trying to do with my grandchildren, which is very challenging to get all of them together because they're spread out all over the place, is to, well, they already have a custodial account. But they get a little birthday money, a little Christmas money, they put it in the state employees credit union. I'm trying to get them to ask the parents to let them move that money into the custodial account and invest that money. So I'm trying to work with my grandchildren and also bring in other children. Like I have 2 or 3 teenagers right now that works with me. So eventually I want to bring them in and teach them about investing. I always talk to them about if you want to get rich, there are 3 things you need to do. You need to have your own business, you need to invest in real estate, and invest in the stock market. The one thing that was concerning to me, I've thought about doing Zoom meetings since I'm having such a hard time getting all of them together. And I'm saying, how long should these meetings be? So I was glad when your wife showed that the age group and the attention span. We have one that's 10 years old. So if we do a Zoom meeting, we can only do it for about 20 minutes. It really has been great. Thank you.
You're welcome, you're welcome, Mr. Dyson. Miss G, Mr. Dyson's granddaughter. I know I'm gonna mess this up, Mr. Dyson. Excuse me. Is it Leanne?
Leah.
Leah, Mr. Dyson's granddaughter attended last summer.
I remember.
Remember her? Okay.
But I thought the class was starting Thursday.
No, we start on Monday.
Monday, okay.
Mr. Dyson, you didn't have a question. You was just making a comment, right? Because I don't want to speak if you didn't have. I can say something, but I didn't hear you ask a specific question.
No, it was just a comment.
Okay. Great. Yeah, Mr. Dyson, we welcome, send them our way. If you have any, the grandchildren, you want to get them involved in our camp. We'll get them started, at least with the basics. And only question I did have for you with the custodial accounts, do the kids already have 529 plans?
Do they have a 529 class?
Plan.
One of them, the oldest one, yes, but not just other ones.
Okay, because the 529 plans could be, that's also important because that's the college savings plan.
Yeah, we actually thought about it, but we decided to go with insurance, where you have the cash value built up.
Okay, yeah, like an annuity.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Yeah. So what I'm finding, and now this is for everyone, is that when you can get like-minded kids together, we have not been able to do this, but this is our ultimate goal. So what I want to do, hopefully we'll get an opportunity, is to have stock competitions, and this is not new. Other schools, depending on where you are, they have these competitions where kids are competing for money. But this pastor from the Bahamas contacted me 2 weeks ago. So he said he wanted to introduce our program to his church. So my first thought was, okay, well, when we get his kids learning, we'll have our kids in our program. Let's do like a competition with the Bahamas, the Bahamian. Is that right, Kim? Bahamian. Okay, thank you, Lee. I knew one of y'all was gonna jump in to correct me. We get one of them against us, like the Junior Wall Streeter group. And I know, and that's one thing Kamari and I do, and I didn't say that, it's competition. Kids like competition. So we try to get them revved up and competing against each other. So it's like, all right, if we have these two components, whoever portfolio has the highest gain, let's say at the end of 6 months, you get $2,000-$3,000 or something like that to continue investing. I think when the kids can see the money, when they can see that they're earning money, and you won't earn this type of money in an interest-bearing account, unfortunately, you will own it, or you will lose it in the stock market. And that's so it definitely can be challenging. And I think the other component of the challenge is it all depends on how the familial background is, right? Like I know when I was growing up, I used to shovel snow, do whatever I can to make some money, to buy me some sneakers, buy me some extra stuff my mother couldn't afford. If your kids like our kid don't really want for anything, they're like Leslie to get out there and hustle. So you got to just try different things. And definitely we've done a couple things with Kamari to get him grounded and focusing on his account. But the background, the social economic status sometimes can play a role in kids' lack of or motivation in learning more. Because some kids like me, I've been like, "Lo, I'm tired of being poor. I'm gonna learn this." So, but I just caution people that want to be rich, and I like your advice you gave him, Mr. Dyson, because that's what it is. I would say the exact same thing: real estate and investing on your own business. Those are important criteria. I mean, real estate. That's why we teach introduction to real estate, because that is key. But it has to be balanced. Real estate and invest in stock market. You can't do all in one. And that's again what we teach is diversification, diversification, diversification. You got to be diversified. Not all stock market, not all real estate. And you combine the two, you will be well on your way. Because sometimes the stock market is down, the real estate market is up. Real estate is down, stock market is up. That's why you need to do a little bit of both. But I'm going to stop here because I tell you, I can talk about this day in, day out. This is passion. This is not my legal job, my full-time job. Miss Perry, you okay? You still there? Thank you for joining us. You're good for Monday?
Yes, good afternoon.
Good
I
afternoon.
just had a question.
Okay.
My daughter is going to attend on Monday to camp, but I just want to know what are the days going to be like so we can get an idea of, and then the homework and things of that sort. If you can go a little bit more into that.
Yeah, what I can do is I'll send you Ms. G, did you want to comment or?
I can if you like. Good afternoon and thank you so much. So what is going to be our homework is basically going to be tracking stocks because we only have 2 weeks and we want to start them off as soon as possible, understanding how to look up stocks and how to track those stocks because the second week we're going to get into what are club and we're going to have investment clubs. So they're going to work. So the stocks that they have been watching the first week individually, they may want to recommend to their group based on their performance for that 1 week of investing in it as a group for the second week when we do investment clubs. So most of the work that we do is going to be about tracking stocks and understanding how gains and losses are earned or lost.
Thank you, Michelle. I just saw you were just about to log
Thank
off.
you.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. No
Miss
problem.
Perry, and just to elaborate on that, I can send you out a course outline if you like. But so the first few days we just cover basic financial literacy. It's the first day banking, then we do credit and budgeting. And once we have that covered, we talk about monetary and fiscal policy. And then on Friday Friday is the day we kick off. If we're going on schedule with how to invest in the stock market, like what different components. But Monday, as Ms. G said, and as I said earlier, we're going to teach them how to track stocks. So Tuesday, your daughter will be expected to come in with her own stock. How many are we doing this year, Ms. G? 2 or 3?
We want at least 3.
Okay, so on Monday we'll teach them, and on Tuesday we want them to at least come in on with their own, and we're going to show them everything, so they should be able to do that. And then from Tuesday on, they will be tracking those stocks for the entirety of the 2 weeks and other stocks as they add on. So we'll teach them about ETFs, exchange traded funds, which I've made a pretty good amount of money off of, as our club have. So as we teach them, we'll add on different securities that they need to add to their portfolio, because basically they'll be constructing a portfolio.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What are the dates and times?
Excuse me?
Oh, I'm sorry. What are the dates and times?
Starting Monday for the next 2 weeks, June 24th to July 5th.
Yeah, I just put it in there.
Okay, 10 to 3 Eastern Standard Time.
Ms. G, I think that was directly to me. I don't know if the group sees it.
Correct.
Miss
I did it
Perry already
directly
signed
to
up,
you.
by the way, Miss Turner.
What'd you say?
Miss Perry's already signed up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us. Yeah, I turned it down, Alina. You catch everything, huh? That light was getting hot.
I do.
Okay, everyone. Thank you, Miss Perry,
Okay.
for joining us. Thank
Thank
everyone
you.
else.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.